Hello everybody, my name is Nicolette Buller and I'm running to be Bradfield's representative, your representative in the next Australian Parliament. Before I launch into the speech proper, though, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge our health system. Public-private aged care and disability services has been doing it tough for a while now. And this week in New South Wales, we've experienced the most deadly week of COVID. And I'm just so very grateful and appreciative of all the work that people in that system are doing for everybody, for all of us. So and now, I want to thank the voices of Bradfield for daring to dream that this safe seat is maybe not that safe. I want to thank all their members, their supporters and the volunteers. I also want to thank all the other Bradfielders and friends that have tuned in and turned up today and joining us virtually, of course. Thank you to First Australians for their custodianship of this spectacular country, for what they continue to show and to teach me about the value and the power of cultural connection with land, with water and with sky, and also about patience and resilience. And finally, thank you to the ratepayers of Ku-ring-gai Council who funded the renovation of this most essential piece of civic infrastructure, the St Ives Community Centre, where we are today. It takes a village people. And thinking of the village people, I remember being in this building wearing fluoro. The year was 1986 and it was a Friday night blue light disco. Hands up. Beautiful. This building, or rather its predecessor, it's part of my local history. From child to adult, as is every venue, shop, park, and quite a few homes in Bradfield. I was raised in Bradfield. You heard I went to Gordon East Primary, to Clara High, and I even went to university at UTS Ku-ring-gai Linfield campus. And now I'm raising my own family here. I've lived for 41 of my 51 years here in Bradfield. My parents, Dutch migrants, are still in the electorate. And before you ask me, I recently renounced my Dutch nationality to be eligible to run as your representative. So I'm officially a citizen. I don't want to. So my mum, she instilled in me her socially progressive values. And my father and my late stepfather, biomedical engineer and Barker Oldboy, showed me what business with purpose could contribute to the economy, to communities and people's lives. My parents, my children, and my friends, people here in Bradfield, have all shaped me. In fact, my 19-year-old son, who votes for the first time in this federal election, he asked me, what's the point? And I was momentarily stumped, but just momentarily. And my answer is that 2022 is the year for change. Real change. And all federal elections matter, and every vote at every federal election matters, but 2022 is a genuine turning point. And the reason that I've decided to run is because I believe this to be true, and that I need to do what I can. Our democracy is not well, and that malaise explains our inability to deal with climate change, the failures to deliver competent government, and our apparent willingness to tolerate disrespect and inequality. And I believe that the only way to restore confidence in democracy is to send genuine local representatives with important life experience to Canberra. I'd love the applause, but we might not get through the speech if it happens. The people we send to Canberra to govern on our behalf should reflect our values and priorities in their decision-making for the nation. And we should have confidence that no undue influence from self-interest, party lines and corporate donors interferes with the planning of the national interest. I have very strongly held views about integrity and transparency. That's why my donations acceptance policy sees me going beyond what's required by law. So the Australian Electoral Commission requires that donors over amounts of $14,500 be disclosed. Feel free to start donating. But I will be disclosing donor details of over $1,500. And I will not accept donations from corporations whose reason for existence is profit. I have absolutely no problem with profit. In fact, I think the free market wouldn't exist without it. It just has no place in politics. And I plan to bring this insistence on transparency to government. We have a right to know the criteria that ministers use in making the many, many decisions that fall within their portfolios. So the kind of sunlight that I plan to bring to government may be uncomfortable for some. We've all read in the media of attacks on community independence in other electorates. And in some ways, this shows that the threat that they are is already happening to the status quo, and isn't that already a wonderful outcome? I fully anticipate that similar antics will be applied to my candidacy, and stories, lies, and half-truths will be shared about me. And so let me tell you what is true. I believe I have an obligation to pass on to all of our children the legacy of a healing planet, and to recognise that I am custodian and not sovereign. That means strong, urgent and effective action on climate change, and that is not radical. In fact, for many people, conservation is the very essence of conservatism. Also true is that I'm one of 700,000 supporters and a proud member of the Australian Conservation Foundation, and I have been for over 20 years. I served on its council, as did Malcolm Fraser. I am also a member of the Responsible Investment Association Australasia, and RIA's members manage over $40 trillion globally. Their work strengthens the integrity of the sector and builds purpose into finance. Because to me, business is where creativity meets innovation and great things can happen. I love business, and I love markets, and I've seen how, when appropriately regulated, they can be put to work for positive outcomes for society, for us, and also for nature. And like you, I'm also a member of a community, and I'm not more than just a consumer in an economy. The Australian community, the Bradford community, is such a rich and varied place to live. I stand for celebrating our cultural heritage and creativity. I stand for a cohesive and an inclusive society. I will stand up against racist behaviours. And I want to live in a society where we seek to understand each other, where we respect the differences, and we help each other when we are in need. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to care. And both of these things can be true. Our community is so diverse that it's really challenging to be across, particularly after a few weeks, all of the issues that are concerns of all of you. And I commit to keep listening and learning from you. There are 3 issues, though, that I'm hearing loudly and clearly. First, democracies are in danger of self-inflicted harm all over the world, and Australia is not immune. Many of you said to me that you just don't want Australia going the way of the United States. And 2021 showed us, like no other time in history, that we need to take robust measures to restore integrity to politics, to protect and to strengthen what we have here in Australia, so that we can once again be proud of how Australia is governed. Now, this means more to me than a federal ICAC. We need, for example, to ensure that the appointment to independent bodies is not a political party process, such as our ABC, the SBS, Coast and the Australian Human Rights Commission. The power to dictate the future direction of these important institutions is best exercised in sunlight. Secondly, this next decade will determine Australia's future well into the century. It is momentous for our climate and also for the opportunities that come with reorienting our economy for a 21st century. We could be creating new jobs and new Australian industries in sustainable food systems, forestry, renewable, decentralised and coordinated energy systems. We could be properly addressing the consequences of climate change. And we could stop subsidising industries such as fossil fuels that have only a limited place in our energy budget. And let's face it, those coulds are really shoulds. We just can no longer afford a 21st century thinking and mindset in a 19th century mindset in a 21st century global economy. And planning a transition is the sensible thing to do. Pretending that the little we've done so far is enough is frankly greenwashing. Okay, so finally what I'm hearing is that fairness isn't an optional value. For Australians, it's who we are. We look after each other. And we've been drifting away from that commitment and the fair society we expect. Women don't feel safe. People living with disability and their carers still don't enjoy timely in-community resources. Marginalised communities don't feel supported and often feel slighted. We're leaving people behind when we should be moving forward together, and that's not okay. Right, so this is a speech, and the words matter in a speech, but my actions matter too, as does my accountability to you. And when I hear people say that they want their representatives to stop telling me what they believe and to start showing me, well, I have this to say: when I'm your independent voice in the Parliament, I'm going to do just that, to ensure that these principles, which so many of us recognise to be fundamental, are reflected in our government every day. Just you watch me. And as Sophie mentioned, as this week begins, so does the new year for many in our community. It ushers in the year of the water tiger. And according to my Chinese Australian family member and friends, the tiger is known for its power, daring, and its ability to do everything on a grand scale. Water implies creativity, but also implacability. And I take these as good signs. I will step up to do what I can, and you have turned up and tuned in today. Many of you have already donated, volunteered, and even reposted on social media. Thank you. But this can only be won by each of you having conversations with your friends and family also living here in Bradfield. Ask them if they're satisfied with how government decisions are made on climate, on how the economy has been handled in these difficult times, and how women are treated by this government. And from now until election day, I ask you to join with me in the belief that change is not only possible, it's necessary. I'm also asking you to join with me in the absolute conviction that in our democracy, there is no such thing as a safe seat. Three more. I ask you to believe that Australia can change its course with experienced leadership. And I ask you, please have these conversations with your family and friends. And finally, I ask you to vote one Buller, Nicolette Buller, when the federal election is finally held, and to vote like your future depends on it.